Balance is one of the most important landscape photography composition techniques. And in this video I will talk about 4 different techniques that you can use to create balance in your landscape photos. Hi, I'm Kim from Landscape to Art, and I'm here to help you improve your landscape photography, focusing on developing your skills as a photographer and less on the gear. And if this is your first time here, make sure to click the subscribe button below. Balance in photography composition is when the elements in an image are perceived as balanced throughout the composition. Practically, this means that the left and right sides of an image must be in balance. Think of it as a scale. When the scale has the same weight on both sides, it's balanced. You create balance by reframing the composition so that the different elements in the frame are positioned in such a way they draw the viewer's attention equally. And knowing how to effectively balance subjects within a photo is a skill that all serious photographers must learn. And there are basically 2 main types of balance in composition. It's formal and informal balance. So let's get started. Let's talk about the first balance first, the formal balance. And formal balance is also called symmetrical balance. And when you started to take photos, I guess that and before you learned about composition, you likely positioned the subject in the center of the frame. Most people do that. And this is the most natural way for most people to do it until you start really to learn about composition. In a formal balanced photo, both sides of the frame have equal weight, and they can, in some compositions, actually mirror each other. And you can intentionally center the subject horizontally or vertically in the frame to create a perfect symmetrical composition. And this basically divides the frame in 2 similar halves. So let's have a look at some of the photos. In this photo, the mountain creates a triangle, and the triangle is reflected on the water as well. So this is a totally symmetric image, and it's actually symmetric both on the horizontal and the vertical side here. And let's look at this one. If I tilt the horizon, it actually turns the photo out of balance immediately. So this doesn't look balanced at all. So it's just this little slight change, or the horizon unleveled. It makes the photo totally different. Here is another example of a symmetrical balance. It's centered, so it's reached all the way into the vanishing point here in the horizon, and all these it lines up perfectly. So it's a vertical symmetrical image. And this one here, also a typical, it's a reflection again, and the 2 halves are exactly the same, so it's divided horizontally. It's not exactly balanced vertically, but it's the darker areas of the ice here kind of balances with the ripples in the water from the ship passing by. Now let's look at informal balance, and which is the second type of balance I will talk about of the main balance types. And another name for informal balance is asymmetrical balance. And this is the most common composition technique and the way most landscape photos are composed. With informal balance, the subject is intentionally positioned off center of the frame. And this is a much more challenging technique to do and it requires a lot of practice to do it well. So let's look again at some of the examples. The most known asymmetrical balance is when you use the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds divide the frame in 3 sections, vertically and horizontally. And you can see this tree here is positioned on the left line in the rule of thirds. So it's make it more pleasing, but because there are some shadows here and high contrast, it's actually balanced the image, so it looks balanced even though there is nothing similar on the right side of the image. But now if I center the tree, now it's centered and this doesn't look as good. It's filled it feels unnatural looking at the photo this way. So by placing the tree on the left third, it's much more pleasing to look at. Here's another example. These rocks here are leading the eyes from the right side and onto the island here on the left side. So this is an example of asymmetrical balance. So the rocks balance the darker island. And here's a similar example. This puddle here in the front of the image balance with the darker the mountains behind. So this is an example of a asymmetrical balanced image. And finally this one. Without this, the wheel and this thing in the foreground here, it would have been nothing actually. So it would have been only the house. So I positioned the camera very close to this old kind of thing. I actually don't know what it is, but it makes for a much better balanced composition by adding this thing in the frame here in the front, in the foreground. Most landscape photos are more complex with a lot of elements in the frame, and the challenge is to balance these different elements in the best possible way. And there is a third type of balance I will briefly cover, and it's color balanced. It's another interesting way to create an informal balance when you use colors. Like in this example, the red house here it draws the eyes immediately, but it's counterbalanced with the blue color on the sky and the water, and also the green yellow colors in the mountainside here. So this is a balanced image, even though it's very heavy on the left side here, but it's weighted or counterbalanced with the sky on the right side. And the last type of balance I will talk about is tonal balance. And this kind of informal balance is typically used in black and white images, because in black and white the tonal balance is seen in terms of contrast between the lighter and darker areas within an image. It's like bright colors and darker areas attract the eyes more than and are best balanced by adding bigger and lighter areas to the photo. So here is an example. In this image here, it in a color version, definitely the water here in the foreground attracts the eyes. So, and then it brings the eyes over to the puffy white clothes. But if I convert this image to black and white, the water is no longer the same. The water has not interest anymore. So now the eyes are immediately drawn to the brighter areas here in the clouds. So this is an example how tonal contrast attracts the eye. So the contrast between the white sky here and the water is an example. And again, back to the color image. My eyes tends now to move first to the blue water here, which contrasts to the grass around. So it's a big contrast between the blue and the green. But so this is why I'm attracted by the water. But again, if we move it to black and white, the white areas here attracts the attention more. To know and understand how to balance a photo, you need to know what actually attracts the viewer's eye. And different objects have different ability to attract the eyes because of the subject's visual mass. And visual mass is a concept which is useful to understand when you compose images. The first is brighter elements attracts the eyes more than darker elements, and it's typically in this image. Even though we have some very dark trees here in the background and they are blurry, it's still this reflection from a house or window or whatever it's in the hillside here that draw my eyes there. It's the smallest point in the image actually, but it's the thing that attracts the eyes most. So this is an example of that brighter areas attract the eyes more. So be very careful about reflections and lens flares in your photos. The other example is high contrast versus low contrast, and it's similar to we saw the image a few minutes ago about the tonal contrast, and this is also an example of the same. It's a big contrast between the darker grass here and the reflection of the water. So the eyes are drawn to the brighter, high contrastly areas. The next one is big versus small, and in this example the eyes are naturally drawn to the bigger tree here before it moves over to the smaller trees to the right. So bigger elements attracts the eyes more than smaller elements does. It's the same here. The eyes here is huge compared to the boat, but in this situation the eyes are attracted to the bigger element, the eyes. But still, since this boat has a warm or red-orange color, it also attracts the eyes a lot. So you cannot avoid to see the boat here in the image. And that brings me to the last here, and that the warmer colors attracts the eyes more than cold colors. So in this case, the eyes are drawn to this lamppost here with this orange yellowish light on it, even though the rest of the image is cold and blue. The eyes are attracted by the brighter, the warm light. And here's another example. This person here is very small in the scene, but the orange jacket here draws the eyes over the eyes. So the eyes are naturally drawn to the person when you look into this image, and then you start to look around in the rest of the frame. And then we have another way of visual mass is focus. So areas in focus tend to draw attention more than areas out of focus. So in this case I intentionally draw the iceberg here out of focus to bring more attention to the penguin in the front. So even though the ice is blurred, it's and much bigger in the frame, it's still the penguin that draw the attention first, and then you move over to the ice. Maybe I should have blurred it even more to make it even less distinct in the photo. And then finally, people. If you have people in photos, whatever, if they're small or big or whatever, the eyes are always drawn to people, to humans. And even with this huge waterfall here and then that colorful rainbow, the eyes are drawn to the couple of standing here in front of the waterfall. It's impossible for the eyes not to be drawn there. So I hope you liked this video and that it gave you some inspiration and ideas how you can use balance in your landscape photos. It is an important skill to master, so go out and practice and think about the visual mass of the elements you are photographing, and then try to balance the image so it looks pleasing to the eyes. Now, if you like the video, consider giving it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel below. Thank you so much for watching, and as usual, if you have any comments or questions, post them in the comment section below. And then until next time, ha det bra, goodbye.